All right, so basically we're going all the way back to tutorial 2. Yeah, so basically here we have a person class. Person has an address, so it's giving us some properties that the person has. So person has a sex, has last name, initials, year of birth, and also net worth. So so yeah, I'm gonna just start writing something. Let me just see if I can share this window as well. Give me a sec. Let me see if I can find the desktop screen one. Pum pum pum. This is interesting. All right, I guess I have to. Yeah, Mac is kind of different. All right, so let me see if I can see that now. Sorry, I'm guessing you can see this, the Visual Studio. Yeah? You can see the Visual Studio window?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, so yeah, let me just call this tutorial 2. So yeah, I think it was called person. So let me just create a thing there class as well. Address, because I think there's an address class. Oh, that was nice. Yeah, so I'll start out writing a class like this. So public class address. All right. So the first thing, as always, that goes into a class are your instance variables. Now, an address based on the tutorial. I don't know if you guys seen the tutorial. But it's supposed to be tutorial 2. So if you have it, you guys can look at it. But basically, an address let me see. An address has a street number, a street name, a city, and a country. So those are properties of an address. So I'm gonna write that street name, street number, city, country. I mean, I guess we could make the street number int if we wanted. Let's make it int. All right, so those are instance variables. So it's basically like the properties that make up this class. So an address has a street name, a street number, city, and a country. Next thing that comes usually is your constructor. So a constructor is basically that function that basically creates objects of this class. So anytime you want to create an object of the address class, the first function that is called is a constructor. So usually in the constructor, what we do is if we want to initialize any instance variables that we have in the class, we usually do that inside the constructor, since that's the first function that will be called. So let's say, for instance, this constructor just takes in all the values needed to initialize these instance variables. It takes in the street name, street number, the city, and the country. Oops, I think I spelled country. Yeah.
Yo, Matthew, in your attributes,
Yeah, I spelled that wrong. All right, so I'm just gonna guess we're just gonna initialize these as usual. All right. Let me see something. All right. So if you notice, I use this keyword here. So this basically is a reference to your current class. So when you're saying this dot street name, you're saying the street name I'm referring to here is the instance variable street name that I had declared right here. Now, if I had if the variable names, my instance variable names were different from the variable names of my parameters inside this function here, then I would not need to have the this in front of it. So really and truly, this in this case basically differentiates between the instance variable versus the parameter of the function. So let's say for example, I had called it I don't know strt name, then I could simply just say strt name is equal to street name and define, because well Java will know that these two are different variables, well clearly because they have different names. But if we want to keep things consistent, we can have them being the same names, but if we do, then use this in front of it so Java knows which one is it. Um, all right. So I mean, I think all of these are private. Private. Probably want to do some getters and setters. Oh, I'll probably do some getters. All right, let's leave that for now. But all right. Well, I guess let me just use this as an opportunity to tell you what a getter and a setter is. So getters and setters are basically functions that operate on these instance variables. So a getter is just a function that basically returns the value of one of your instance variables. A setter basically sets the value of one of your instance variables. So I'll just do one getter and one setter so that if at least you hear that term, you know what I'm talking about. So let's create a get street name. So getters and setters are usually public methods. What I mean by public is other classes have access to that method. So whenever I create an instance of the address class in say another class, I'm able to invoke the method that any method that is public. So for example, let's say we have a method called get street name. So getters don't usually take any inputs since all they're doing is just returning. Since it's returning something, we need a return type after this public here. Street name is a string, so we specify to Java that hey, returning a string, so put string right there. And as you can see, I'm getting an error here because Java is telling me that I need to return a result. All I do is just return street name. So that's a getter. A setter now, um, again, has to be public. Since it's not returning anything, it's just basically setting the value of a instance variable. We put void to indicate to Java that this method doesn't return anything. We can call it set street name. Now setters, they usually take in some parameter or value. So in this case, we're taking in the street name. So this now simply do something like this. So say this dot street name is equal to street name. So basically this method, the purpose of this is just to change the value of the instance variable street name that you have here to the street name that is passed into this function. Yeah, so that's basically how a generic class looks like, where you have a construct. Well, you have the instance variables, you have your constructor, and you have a getter, and you have a setter. Right? Any questions on it? We'll move on. All right. So the next thing in the tutorial is, so I already did write a code to implement the address class. It says we need to create a person class now. All right, so public class person. All right, so it says a person has a 6. So they create the enum in here. I'll show you 2 different ways of doing this enum. Either you can create it inside the class, or we can create a separate file that has the enum. So male and female. All right, so you might be asking to yourself, all right, what is this enum thing? So enum, think of it like a set of defined constants. So we have a special type called 6, and we're saying that this 6 type has only 2 defined constants. It can either be male, or a person's sex can either be female. So if, for instance, we are trying to create some variable that we know has some defined sets of types or defined values, for example, let's say, I don't know, weight categories. So you have large, heavy, small. Then we could create an enum for that as well. It's just a way to really make your code more readable. I mean, we could have used like a string or an int or something like that, but I guess enums in a way help your code to look more readable. It's basically easier to see, heavy rather than say 0 or 1. So that's a lot more readable. All right, so we just created that enum. So it's like a special type called 6, and we're saying it can either be male. So these are 2 possible values, either male or female. So I'm gonna look back at the document to see. So we have initials, last name, string initials, um, and of course the oops, sorry, of course the person's 6. So here we're basically creating a variable called 6, and the type is of type 6. So this variable here can either have the value sex.male or sex.female. I think the last one is net worth, if I'm not mistaken. I probably am mistaken. Probably am mistaken. Let me see. Ah, we got one more, of course. Your year of birth. All right, so private is basically the opposite of public. So whilst public, the value or the variable itself can be accessed anywhere, with private can only be accessed within the class. So to essentially follow the principles of encapsulation and information hiding, which is all about basically keeping things contained within a class, we tend to make our instance variables private. Um, we'll come to something else called protected soon enough, which is something that you can use as well. So they said create 2 constructors. So our default constructor that doesn't do anything. So it's a public person. Doesn't accept any inputs, and I guess it's not doing anything. And we'll have another constructor. All right, so this constructor now, I'm look back at the tutorial. I'm trying to figure out some way to like share the whole screen. I still haven't figured that out yet. So it seems to me you can only share windows. I don't know, Danielle, if you know, there's some way to share the whole screen.
I'm gonna double check it and let you know soon.
All right, cool. Done. All right. So the constructor for person takes in the initials, the last name, year of birth, sex as an integer. Let me look back at that quickly. So initials, last name, year of birth, 6. So initials, last name, year of birth, six. All right. Now, there's one more thing that we forgot. And it's the fact that a person also has an address. Now, if you notice, the person class and the address are two classes. And we're saying a person has an address. So there's a relationship going on between person class and the address class. And when the relationship is in the form has a, so a person has a address, then what you have is what we call aggregation. So on say a UML diagram, the aggregation would be represented using a diamond. And you put the diamond on the class that has the other thing. So the diamond would be on this, on the person class. Now we have two different types of aggregation. We have strong and weak. Now with strong aggregation, the object that you're aggregating. So in this case, right, a person has an address. So this is the address object. So we'll call it address. Now, if we create the object inside, if we create the address object inside this person class, then it's strong aggregation. If we don't create the object, but instead pass in the object through, say, a function or something else like that, then it's weak aggregation. By creating the object, I mean using the new keyword. So I'm show you an example of strong aggregation. Now, before I do that, let me just initialize these things. So this the initials equal initials. This the last name for last name. This dot year of birth. Year of birth. But let's leave the 6 the last. All right. Now, we're gonna assume this is strong aggregation, and since for strong aggregation we have to create this address object, meaning we have to inside, by create we mean using the new keyword inside the person class, then we have to look at what the constructor for address class takes in. Because to create an object of a class, you have to invoke the constructor. Now, if you look inside the address class has one constructor. That constructor accepts the street name, the street number, the city, country. Now, since the person class is going to be responsible for creating this object, it would need these values to be able to properly create the address object, since the constructor for address needs these values. Now, what we usually do is to allow that to happen is allow the constructor for the person class to accept these values that the address constructor requires. So to save time, I'm just gonna copy these and put it right here. So the street name, street number, city, yeah, street number, street name, city, country. So yeah, so this is me creating the address object inside here now. So you're saying my address object here is equal to, so I'm going to create the object, the address object, create an object in Java. You say new address. So put the constructor, look at what the constructor accepts. It accepts the street name. So put street name, then it accepts the street number, the city and the country. All right, so that's it for the address. Now this is an example of strong aggregation. I'm going to show you an example of if it was weak aggregation. Now, as I say, if it's weak aggregation, this class isn't responsible for creating an object, meaning we're not going to be using this. The object instead is passed into maybe some function or even the constructor. So if it was strong aggregation, it would look something like this. So I'll erase all of this and just put address, since the object is passed in directly. And then just comment that out. I would say this dot address. So this is an example of weak aggregation. Alright? Alright, so I'm just gonna undo all that stuff. By the way, is there some way to record this? If that's a feature on this.
In the session?
Yeah, is there something like that?
Yeah, I'm recording.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Oh,
so yeah.
you wanted to share the tutorial? What you can do is send the file in the chat.
Oh, in the chat?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. So, let me see if I can download it.
You could do it once you have made the arrangement. You take a picture of the.
I'm gonna share the answers basically.
This, WhatsApp. This is my WhatsApp. Right. That should be able to
So you say in the chat.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're not nearby.
Add the file into it.
Is there like a touch button I'm looking?
Okay. All right. So look at the again in the taskbar of your screen
Yeah.
where you were going, like you're gonna share.
Yeah.
You're gonna move your mouse down a little bit so you can bring it up. Oh, okay. So click the chat,
Yeah.
and then you can once you click chat, it will come up. Wait,
Yeah.
can I use it? And then you can drag the file into that chat.
Oh, drag the okay. Oh, so drag the file. All right.
Did you see? Did it come up on your screen?
Yeah, I'm in the chat, but like I'm. Oh wait. I think it's. Wait, give me a sec. Oh, I saw the plus icon come forward. Oh. Yeah.
I did actually.
Yeah, I'm trying to drag it in there, but it's like it's not.
Okay, just tell me which tutorial it is, and I can drop it in there. But you go back to the if you go back to the team screen, because
Yeah.
I think you're probably still in the Java VS Code. If you go back to the team screen, there should be a chat icon, the same place that you would have clicked to share your screen. It's like to the right of that icon.
Yeah, I'm in the chat now. Like I can see the
Oh.
chat, but like I'm trying to drag the file. Oh wait.
There's an attach button at the bottom too. It's like it looks like a paperclip.
Well, the only thing I see is like a thing there, a send button and a. All right. I mean, it's tutorial 2. I guess we'll figure that out later.
You can tell me which tutorial it is, and I can drop it in there.
Yeah, it's tutorial 2. It's the one with person and address.
Okay, cool.
All right. So you guys still see my Visual Studio Code, huh?
Yeah.
All right. All right. So now on to the part that initializes sex. Now, if you notice, the sex variable here is of type sex, but the sex variable here is an integer. Now, we would not be able to do this say this dot 6 equals 6, because as you can see here from the error message, there's a type mismatch. So the type here is of type 6, so this one up here, but the type here is an integer. Now, basically what we can do is just have a number that corresponds to each type. So for example, the 6 right here is equal to 0. Let's say, for example, 0 is for males, 1 is for female, or anything other than 0 is for female. So we can say this dot 6 is equal to 6 dot male. So this is how we specify the value. We put the enum type, then say dot male, then the value that we want to be. Let me else this dot 6 equal 6 dot male. If you want the code to actually look a little bit neater, if you find that you have like a if-else statement like this, where you just have one thing in the if statement, one thing in the else statement, you don't actually need these curly braces. You could do something like this. And that would actually, a lot of you might not know that, but yeah, if you do something like this. So if you have, but this only works if you have like one thing in the if statement right here. But if you have more than one thing, then that's a problem. But if you have like one thing like this, then if you try this out, it would actually work. There's even another way to do it. I don't know if you guys have ever used this before, but I guess I'll introduce it to you. So there's something called a ternary operator. So it's basically like a way to do like a if-else statement in one line. So I can do something like this. So I can say this dot 6 is equal to 6 is equal to 0. Then I put a question mark. And then I put what it is, what the value should be, or if this thing is true. Then I put a colon, what the value should be if this thing is false. Yeah, so there's a lot to take in here, but basically what this is saying is this is what we call a ternary operator. It's basically like what I have right here in one line. It's like saying if 6 is equal to 0, put a question mark, then it should evaluate to 6.male. This statement here should evaluate to 6.male, else evaluate to 6.female. And whatever that evaluates to will be passed into this variable. Yeah. So just showing you guys some cool tricks you can do to make a code look yeah, a little neater. Yeah, I'm just commenting this out for now. Just use the one that you guys used to. All right. So that's the constructor. Now I'm gonna show you two ways to do this sexting. So this is by using the integer thing. There's a cleaner way to do it, which I'll show you soon. All right. Let's see what else is there to do in this tool. All right. It says, oh, add an instance variable of type address. Call it home address. So it seemed we were supposed to call this home address. I'm just rename this home address. Let me see what else needs to be done. It says complete constructor to initialize that. All right, we did that. Now it says write a mutate a method called update net worth, which takes in a value and adds the value to the existing net worth of a person. All right, so we'll also have a net worth variable here. So a mutator method is basically what it sounds like, just a method that changes one of your variables. You guys can still hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, cool. All right, so yeah, update net worth. So let's just call this value. So since I want to add this onto my previous net worth, I can simply say this dot net worth plus equal value. Yeah, so that's it. What else is there? All right, so after that is the whole thing about creating a main class. Before I do that, there's also a toString, so I'll just write a toString for this. Public string toString. Okay. So I'm just basically writing what I see on the tutorial sheet because they gave you the toString. But I'll explain basically what's being written. All right, so this slash n thing here is what we call a Newline character. So basically anything written after this slash n here will be written on a new line. So something of it like a line break or something like that. All right, so say name this initial. So just like how you have concatenation in Python, we'll have the same thing in Java. So we can concatenate two strings, which is basically the same thing as saying we're joining them together. And we use a plus sign to do that. You're able to concatenate not just strings, but like doubles and stuff like that onto another string. Basically what Java does in the background is just convert those to strings, then do the concatenation. So I think there's the address. All right, now we need a toString for the address if we're gonna print this properly. So let me just go back to the address class. Return. So what is it? You have the street name. Then you have what the street number. Then you have what the city. And the last thing you have is the country. All right, so let me just explain this. So basically, this is a string. A string in Java, it has double quotes. We can basically add on to that string, basically attach something to that string. So in this case, we're adding two strings together, which basically joins them together. So we just say, so it's going to say street name plus whatever the value of street name is. So let's say street name is called halfway tree. So just say street name colon and you say halfway tree after the space right here. And basically the same thing would continue over and over. Yeah. All right. So since I have a toString for this now, there's a reason why I went back and did this, because here in the toString here, I'm just gonna say this dot home address. All right. Now, what I can do is explicitly do this. So basically, the toString would return me all of the details for the address. Now I can explicitly call the toString for the home address, so that it will basically just add on all of that stuff that I had for address here. Or I can just do this. Now you might be asking why both of these work. Reason being is because, as I said, when you're concatenating a string and another variable, yeah, give me a second. Let me yeah. Give me a second. All right. So home address. What else do I need to print? Oh, and the last thing is the network. What time is it? Oh. All right. You guys can let me know if you know, we're spending too much time on the simple things, or if you basically understand everything I'm doing already. And maybe you're getting bored. All right. So yeah, that's the two string. So we can basically move on to the last thing for this tutorial. So we can move on to something harder. So yeah, we'll have everything here. So what we'll do is just create like a tester. So I'll do just create like a separate class to represent that, to have the public static void main. All right, so I created a new class. All right, so in Java, we need some way to be able to execute this program, right? Now, how Java knows how to execute, or where should we start executing from, is by specifying this public static void main. It's basically like a special function in Java that basically you're telling Java where to start executing the program from. So you have to write it exactly as you see here. Well, you don't have to call this args, but it needs to be a string array as a parameter, public static. So yeah. So let me look at what the instruction says we should do. Now it says we should create two instances of Mary and Jane. So let me just quickly explain what I mean by that. So a class, remember, is just like a template. So like of how an entity should behave, like the characteristics that it has and all that stuff. An instance is just an example of that template. So I mean, think of like, for example, uh, you have a template for like some emails or something like that. And it has different parts that you can fill out. So you have one basic generic template that has different areas that you can fill out, like probably like your name, stuff like that. Well, I mean, let's say you hand that out to 100 different students. Of course, everybody might have different names, different ages and stuff like that. Those would represent the different instances of that template, essentially. So, I mean, that analogy basically is synonymous with objects and classes. A class would be like the email template that you send out, or the form, and the objects would be essentially what those different forms look like when they've been filled out by the different students. All right, so so I'm gonna create two persons. All right, so create a person or create an object or an instance of a class. We use a new keyword. So first of all, let me declare a person object. So to declare anything in Java, we have to specify the type. In this case, our person object is going to be called Mary. I want to set this person object Mary here is equal to a new person. Now, I think they said to use the first constructor to initialize Mary. So remember, after the new keyword, we'll have to call the constructor. The person class has two constructors, so we are able to just call the constructor with no parameters. So that's why we're able to do this. Now, if there wasn't this present here, it was just like this, then this couldn't work. So see, we're getting the error now. So it's saying that is undefined. So it has to be there. Now, if, for example, now I'm going to show you an example. If I commented these two out, so sorry. So I'm going to comment these two out. So if you notice, we don't have any constructor specified inside this. So I'm going to save that now. If I go over here, the error is gone. Now, basically, if you don't have any constructors specified, you are able to still instantiate an instance of the class, but by default, it will just use an empty constructor. But if you do have a constructor specified, like for example, just this, then you have to use a constructor that you specified here. So I can't just say person because Java is going to be looking for this constructor. So if you want to be able to create a person with just like no values in that constructor, then you have to explicitly create an empty constructor for it to work. All right. All right. So that's Mary. So I can create Jane now. All right. All right. So let's look at what. Oops. Oh. Yeah. So let's look at what the person constructor requires. So person constructor needs an initials, last name. What else does it need? It needs the year of birth. What year is it? No, I wasn't born in that year. Let's say I'm born in 1918 when the influenza came. Let's say I'm a, well, not let's say I am a male. So let's use 0 for that. Street name. I don't know. Let's say Princess Street. So this is what I'm doing here is actually specifying values that I'm going to use for this person. So all of these variables you see here would be replaced by the values that are specified right here. Street number, let's say it's 100. City, say New York. Country, let's say Italy. I don't know. Not sure why those names came. All right. Cool. So what just happened there? Basically, you just created a person object called Jane, and Jane now has these values as the properties for initials, so last name, sex, year of birth, net worth, and home address have all been initialized to the values that you specified here. Mary now, since we didn't specify any values here, it does not have a value for its initials, last name, sex, year of birth, net worth, or home address. All of these values, in fact, are null, which means they don't have any value, except for the year of birth will be initialized to 0. So yeah, it just doesn't have any value. So the last thing in the tutorial says, update Mary's net worth and print the values both associated with both Mary and Jane. So updating Mary's net worth. Oh, is it Mary? Alright. Now Mary has a net worth because it's a person. and it has a public method called update net worth. So to invoke a method on an object, we use the object name, then say update net worth, and then we put the value. Now if you look at the update net worth method, it accepts a double, so pass in a double. So let's say Mary has come into some large sums of money. So basically what happens is this value here gets passed into this function here, and Mary's value for net worth gets updated to this value. Now, just because you updated the value for Mary's net worth does not mean that Jane's net worth also gets updated. Mary and Jane maintain different copies of these variables. So the net worth for Mary is different from the net worth for Jane. All right, so Jane is still poor. All right, so I'm gonna print these two people. So again, println is just gonna convert whatever you have here to a string. When Java is converting an object to a string, it looks to see if there is a toString method created here, and then uses whatever is returned here as the value for it, the object as a string. I can explicitly call it toString method, and it will explicitly do that. Or, as I said, just leave it like this, just using the object name like that, and Java will do the rest for you. Now, if I did not specify a toString here inside the person class, me just printing Mary like this would not give us what we want. In fact, what you will see is just the location, the address location of Mary in memory. So you basically get some hexadecimal symbols like FXC, whatever, which really means nothing to you. But you can basically override the toString method and specify what you want to do to it. All right, so enough talking. Let's actually see what's outputted here. So let me spin up the terminal. Hopefully we don't have any errors. Probably do. So let's see the tutorial 2. So we compile all this. So Java. So we use Java to compile. Asterisk means a wildcard character, which means anything with a .java extension will be included. So no errors. So that means it compiles. So essentially creates what we call bytecode. So all of these .class files are essentially going to be, think of it like executables that are going to be run on the Java virtual machine. So the main class is the only class that actually has a main method, so we have to run that one. So to run it, we'll just say Java, and then we'll say main. All right, so look at what I have here. Now, if you notice, name, null, null. As I said before, Mary has no values for these, so of course we expect these to be null. Net worth, we updated Mary net worth, so we expect that. For Jane now, we expected this because that's the values that I gave to that, and all the values for like the country and all that is there. And of course we did not update Mary's net worth, so of course that's going to be 0. Let's play around with this bit. So let's say Jane.update net worth and give it a value. So we're gonna run this again. We have to recompile and then run again. So as you can see, Jane now has, in fact, let me rename this person. Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, as you can see, yeah. So until I give Mary some values for these will always be null. Right? So that's why you see null right here. So yeah, that's basically it where it concerns. The whole point of this tutorial was to show you the principle of aggregation, to show you about creating instances of a class and invoking methods of a class. So let me just highlight some things. So the only reason why we're able to call update network here is because update networks was made public. Now, if, for instance, I did something like this, which was made this private, then if I try recompiling, I should get an error. So here you're seeing has private access, which means this update network method can only be used within the person class, only be invoked within the person, which is why we made it public. Alright, so if you guys are wondering what's the point of public private, or what does it actually do, well, you just saw a practical example of that. Let me see. Is there anything we can play around? Oh, yeah, there's one more thing we can play around. Now, let me show you the cleaner way of handling this enum. So instead of me creating an enum inside the class, what I could have done is do something like this. Is create actually a separate file called 6.java. So this file will essentially represent my enum. So it's not going to be a class, it's going to be an enum. So it's a public enum 6. And inside here, we'll put the defined constants, male and female. So here now, in my address class, not address, person. Yeah. I can remove this since I, oops. Yeah, since I created a separate enum called Java in a separate file. And here, instead of me saying int 6, I will take it in as a 6. And I'll just comment this out and say this dot 6 equals 6. Alright, so basically just gonna pass a 6 in directly. And then here in my main method now, of course you're getting an error because I'm passing it int here and I'm supposed to pass a 6. So since this person is a male, I can just say 6 dot male. Boom. See, no errors. Let me try run that again. I don't remember printing the gender in the person class. Did I print the gender for the 6? Let me see. No, I didn't. Well, let's add that in, right? Okay. Okay. Oops. So remember, Java is not Python, so I don't have to put everything on one line. I don't even need to put this in bracket like that. Yeah, it's not sensitive to that. Yeah, so let's actually run this again and see what happens. So, oops, what's going on? Oopsie. All right, so Java started Java, compile Java file. Oh, not in the right folder, sorry. Start up Java, Java, main, yeah, so see there, 6 male. Yeah, I probably should have put some space on it. But I think you guys get the gist. of how to use email. Yeah, see there, 6 email. All right, so that's it for this tutorial. Any questions? Yes. So hopefully by this tutorial you kind of understood what a equal is. You understand what I mean by getters and setters. You understand how to invoke a method of an object. You understand difference between private and public.